Hillary, the gentleman who climbed Mount Everest, he undertook a journey from the Gangotri, from the start of Ganga right up to Calcutta in a speedboat, in a large speedboat. So when it reached Banaras, they told me the story. I didn't witness this. There was one of these Aghoris who said, "This is nothing. I mean, these boats have no power." They said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I can stop it with my erection."
Okay.
So he sat on the bank and the boat was in the water and they tied a rope to the boat and they tied it to his erection. Imagine that he's holding that erection for that long.
Wow.
And they started the boat and he held it for at least 3-4 minutes.
Wow. Oh my! Like, and the boat was trying to go.
Go
in the
and
other
he was
direction.
holding it back.
It's going to be a slightly dark, very learned, very wise episode of the Ranveer Show with the personal Yoda of my life in many ways, Mr. Kiran Khalap. So, you're a mentor to me.
Nice meeting you again.
Yes, as always, sir. You're a huge mentor to me. I'm kind of bored about talking about careers on this podcast. So, decided we need to change things up and just stimulate our minds. If you're a skeptic, switch this podcast off. Go watch our other episodes. Go listen to the other episodes, because this time we're talking to one of the most well-read humans that I've come across in my life. Kiran Khalap is a legend of the world of branding and advertising in India. But we're not going to talk about all that. We will be talking about the darker experiences of your life. We will be talking about the darker books that you've read. You also spent a lot of time in Banaras when you were
Yes.
young.
Yes.
So I'm dead sure you have some crazy stories from back then as well. So in this podcast, sir, we're going to aim to stimulate our audience's mind. Thank you for being on the Ranveer Show, firstly.
Thank you for getting me here again.
My first question to you is about Aghora, like how people call it Aghoris, the Aghori culture. So for a complete rookie, for a complete noob, could you explain what Aghora is?
Right. So I think one of the things we should begin by saying to ourselves is that if you're born in India, you have an enormous opportunity, because as a civilization, we are very old. As a nation, we are very young, right? But as a civilization, we are very old. And therefore, you have millions of ways of experiencing realities beyond the normal. Millions of ways. So the normal way we know is yoga. And yoga, they say that it is Ashtanga, which means it has 8 limbs. Yam, Niyam, Sadhana, Samadhi, all of those are limbs of yoga. So not only do you have to practice the yogasan, which is the physical part of it, you have to practice control and all of that.
The whole lifestyle has to be about it.
So it is that Ashtanga part, which means it has eight things that must be in place. So that is called the right hand of God. Then the left hand of God is called Aghora. Aghora is like the short, sharp, quick way. And yoga is this long-winded way. But yoga is safer. This, if it goes wrong, if Aghora goes wrong, you could end up dead or you could end up as a mad person. And I read a lot about Aghora in English. There would be millions of books in Hindi and Sanskrit and all of that, which I haven't read. But the books that have made Aghora accessible in English is a gentleman called Robert Svoboda. So he's written Aghora 1, Aghora 2, Aghora 3, which has mind-blowing stories. So he came to India and studied Ayurveda, and from there he got attracted, or perhaps he always was attracted to Aghora. And he found a guru called Vimalananda. And then you have all these stories about time travel, traveling into other people's bodies, and all of the mystical powers that Aghoris can have.
So I want to rewind a little bit. You said right hand of God, left hand of God, and these are paths. But
Yes.
what is at the end of the path?
End of the path is liberation.
And both get you to that same end.
Absolutely. This is just 2 paths. There could be many more.
Okay, got it.
Got it? So, for instance, there is there is a path, a panth or a sect called Nath Panth. Okay, and the guru at the top of it is Datta Guru, and you have Machindranath, Gorakhnath, all of that. These are all practitioners of Kundalini Yoga.
Okay.
So Kundalini Yoga, the belief is that there is a serpent coiled thrice at the base of your spine.
Like a pool of energy.
It's the female energy. Then when you practice Kundalini Yoga, she rises through the 6 chakras that you have, and when it merges with the top chakra, which is where the male and female meet, then you have enlightenment or liberation.
Got it. So anyone who's got enlightenment has actually risen their kundalini inside.
That is if you believe in that notion of that path.
Okay.
So I lived with J. Krishnamurti for 4 years, walked with him, had lunch with him, and he wouldn't mention any of this, right? Because his entire thing was, if you are aware, if you are fully aware, you are maddeningly aware, you will be free of the entire habit of thinking and conditioning and all of that. So which is why I'm saying the most interesting part of our civilization is that you could be encountering hundreds of paths.
Got it.
All tried, tested, worked upon, experimented with.
So paths to liberation.
Paths to liberation.
And what happens at liberation?
At liberation, so one idea of liberation is to do with rebirth.
Okay.
That you are no longer reborn. This eternal cycle of being reborn, etc., etc.
And suffering.
And suffering. The other idea is of, if you do not believe in rebirth or anything like that, that you are free of everything that causes suffering to mankind. You are free of anger, you are free of fear, you are free of
anxiety,
any negative emotions. And you become what is called as a sthita prajna.
Okay.
The person who has total equanimity. Whose sthita prajna means he whose prajna, the mind, is completely steady irrespective of what happens outside.
Got it. And do you also get what they call siddhis or superpowers?
Yes, there are meant to be 8 siddhis.
Okay.
You can become very heavy, very light, therefore can walk, you can fly, there are 8 famous siddhis. So I think Hanuman had the 8 siddhis.
So for the listeners who don't know, siddhis are basically, there's no real translation for it in English, but it means that when you're on the path of yoga or evolution, these are like kind of powers that you can actually get if you are very serious about your path.
Yes. If you really look at the person who is realized, all of them are going to say, don't pursue that.
Yeah.
Because that will actually shorten your path. Because you'll get hypnotized by having that siddhi.
Okay, you'll get drunk in the power.
You're drunk in that power, and therefore you're lost the rest of the path.
Got it. So again, if you want to learn how to actually begin your meditation session, again, don't listen to this podcast because it's going to be dark. It's not an instructional podcast. We've covered those topics with Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai. This is about the stories that you've heard. I want to come back to talking about Aghoris. So my knowledge about Aghoris is that I've seen it on Ripley's Believe It or Not on AXN, where they basically consume half-burnt human flesh. So you'll find a whole community of Aghoris in Banaras, and one of their rituals is where they have to eat human meat. So are you familiar with this whole thing?
Yeah, it's just one ritual. So there are many.
Okay.
So what is the idea there? The idea there is you will go beyond your notion of what is good or what is bad by doing things which are completely outside human society. You are also meant to have sex with a young girl who died and who's been buried.
Like necrophilia.
Necrophilia. No, it's necrophilia, yes. So these are things meant to push you beyond the idea of good, bad, ugly, not ugly, this is right, this is wrong. That's the whole, which is why it's called the short path, which it just throws you into the deep end of these experiences, and then you come out the other side completely rid of all these normal notions of good, bad, ugly, beautiful, all of that.
What is your opinion on the concept of ghosts, or from everything that you've read?
There is a simple classification in our philosophy. There is a classification called Devgan, Manushyagan and Rakshasgan.
Okay.
So if you belong to Rakshasgan, you have a greater tendency to experience the occult.
Hold on. So gun is like a personality trait, I'm guessing.
Yes,
Okay. Your genetic disposition.
genetic disposition. The person who is born with the Devgan is unlikely to ever encounter any occult experiences.
Okay.
And the person with Manushyagan is likely to have both, little bit of both.
Beautiful. But coming back to ghosts, so what is your take
what are
on
the
it?
things? I think because I'm in Banaras is the it is the center of all
Occult?
these things. Yeah.
Why do you say the center of occult?
There is also, let's say, some amount of it in Bengal, some amount of it in Assam, but the Aghora Mutt, the epicenter is in Banaras.
Is Aghora also the same thing as Kala Jadoo?
You can mistake it for that,
Okay.
because Kala Jadoo would be practiced by somebody who has got those powers through some method. But Aghora in its purest form is not about doing tricks or harming human beings.
Yeah.
It is not about harming human beings or earning money by doing miracles. It is actually a genuine path to enlightenment.
So Aghoris have no intention of like haunting you in your dreams or haunting you in person.
And making money, no.
But what about, have you seen this movie called Phoonk by Ram Gopal Varma? That was centered around black magic, Kala Jadoo.
Black magic.
Are you familiar with Tantra and all this, like Tantric?
Yeah.
What is a Tantric?
Oh, so there are three words like Tantra, Mantra and Yantra.
Okay.
Yantra is a tool,
Okay.
Tantra is the technique, and Mantra is the utterance that you have. So if you have learned those tantras, the tools, then you become a tantric. So in Banaras, for instance, I was there in 79. So I think 77 or 78, Hillary, the gentleman who climbed Mount Everest, he undertook a journey from the Gangotri, from the start of Ganga right up to Calcutta in a speedboat, in a large speedboat. So when it reached Banaras, they told me the story. I didn't witness this. There was one of these Aghoris who said, "This is nothing. I mean, these boats have no power." They said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I can stop it with my erection."
Okay.
So he sat on the bank and the boat was in the water, and they tied a rope to the boat and they tied it to his erection. Imagine that he's holding that erection for that long.
Wow.
And they started the boat and he held it for at least 3-4 minutes.
Wow. Oh my, like, and the boat was trying to go. in the
And
other
he was
direction.
holding it back.
So, because you're so deep into spirituality, you also end up meeting a lot of these godmen or like gurus. So, I think godmen has now got a negative connotation in the modern day. But there are people who are very advanced on the yogic path who genuinely deserve the respect, who don't do the shady shit that the general youth expects from godmen. So, do you have any stories about?
So, beautiful question. Because I have had the privilege of meeting a gentleman called Gudoni Maharaj.
Okay.
My father tried to get Diksha, long distance grace. Gurus give you grace. By giving grace, meaning they facilitate your journey on that path.
They help you advance.
Yes.
Okay.
So on a particular day, which is Guru Purnima day, my father sat facing a particular direction, having bathed, having something, and he was to get grace from Gudoni Maharaj. The amazing thing was nothing happened to him, but my sister, who was just 8 or 9, she went into a totally different zone.
Like what
She started doing yoga asanas which she had never done. her voice changed and all of that. So
Like voice became heavy.
yeah.
Wow.
So it was, to my mom and me, it was a bit scary. But then we came to understand what that whole thing was. And we went and took her to him in Pune, and he explained that obviously she is born with this
Okay.
Kundalini excitation. So, but she'll have to decide what to do with it, because it is a dangerous path
Okay. But your sister pursued spirituality?
to some extent. But to some extent, it was natural. So she had to consciously curtail it.
Okay.
And then she met a guru several years later, and therefore her path was simpler.
Kiran Khalap, sir. Thank you. This was a beautiful episode. I hope you had
Thank
fun.
you very much. Thank you for having me again.
Could you just give some quick book recommendations for people? One who want to get deeper into the occult world, and the others who want to get deeper maybe into the right-handed, clean meditation.
Yoga,
path.
yes. So, Svoboda, of course. Aghora 1, Aghora 2, Aghora 3.
Yeah.
That is Svoboda. My current favorite on the right-hand side in mindfulness is a book called Mindfulness in Plain English by Bhante Gunaratne.
Okay.
Absolutely beautifully written. I mean, every page has a quotable quote, and the simplest, non-technical, no jargon language about what is this whole notion of Vipassana.
Okay. Cool.
I've gifted it to God knows how many youngsters.
Beautiful. Again, so thank you for being on the Ranveer
Thank
show.
you.
Until next time, probably the next time we'll do a conversation on business and branding because this is a 360-degree mind. So, from Kiran sir and Ranveer.
Thank
See
you,
later.
Ranveer. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.